outcries continue over the death of George Floyd. Last night, people protesting in
Stop
Minneapolis
letting people talk you out of your power.
How do we build a movement that allows us to respond to all the names that people don't know?
People begin to think it's isolated. That's the problem. We're not angry enough.
This is Life After the Impact, a podcast for impacted families by impacted families that focuses on what happens after the media, the lawyers, and the activists are gone.
When the cameras are gone, people leave. We have to be there for each other.
Impacted families are left to face the loss of a loved one to police-sponsored violence. We will focus on their continued fight for justice and how you can get involved.
I tell families, fight.
Everybody can do something, that you don't have to sit home and feel helpless and hopeless.
We gotta stop allowing people to talk us out of our power. That's the main thing.
Can't change overnight, but we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here.
Good evening. My name is Roxanne Johnson. My son's name is Jamal Byrd. He was killed by DC Metropolitan Police October 1st, 2019. I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Latoya. How you doing, Latoya?
What's up, Roxanne? Good evening, you guys. My name is Latoya Benton. I am the mother of the beautiful Xavier Hill. Xavier was killed at the age of 18 by two Virginia State Troopers, January 9, 2021. As you guys know, we are about that action on this podcast. We told you guys beginning of this year, it's going to be like the year of education. So we're honored tonight to be joined by Mrs. Kisha Brown of the Justis Connection. Kisha, give a brief introduction of who you are, please.
Sure. Thank you both. First of all, thank you both for having me, Latoya, Roxanne. It's an honor to be here this evening with both of you. And I'm excited about our conversation, right? And I know we've been having conversations over the past couple of months, and now we've brought it to your podcast and to share it with everyone else. And so a little bit about me. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I've spent most of my career in Baltimore City, right? I started out working at the Legal Aid Bureau, working to change child support laws and to strengthen families through that avenue. And then I went on to do government relations, and then I was the first woman to be director of Baltimore City Civil Rights Office. And before that, I was the civil rights director for the Maryland Attorney General. And currently, I'm the founder and CEO of Justis Connection, and it's the first Black attorney referral network in the country. It's all about connecting people to Black attorneys, whether it's for your business, whether it's for your family, whether it's for a car accident, whether it's for criminal issues, or whether it's for elder care, all different areas that Black lawyers cover. And so making sure that Black lawyers can be a better and more accessible resource for our people. And so that is really the mission of Justis Connection. So like I said, I'm really honored and excited to be here with you tonight.
We're excited to have you. So can you tell us why you decided to start Justis Connection?
Yeah, as a lawyer, I feel like from the minute, you go to law school, everybody's like, oh, you in law school? Oh, okay. Do you know somebody who does dot, 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 right? It'll be like, somebody who does this, somebody does that. I need somebody. My cousin just asked me for somebody. And I started to see this pattern, right? Of people asking me, and because I went to law school, I know different lawyers. If I don't do it, I know someone, or trying to make these connections. And I said, one, we're leaving our people most vulnerable, right? In a legal system that historically and continuously oppresses and marginalizes us as a people, right? So Black lawyers were knowingly leaving our people vulnerable in the system. And we were, quite frankly, leaving money on the table. If you need legal services, you're going to get them someplace. And if you can't find a Black lawyer and you go to somebody else outside the family, right, that is then taking our Black dollar elsewhere. When not only do we have the legal expertise, we also have that shared lived experience as a Black person in this country that you can't read in a book, right? And quite frankly, it is a detriment to us when you think about going to someone who you now have to teach about your culture or about your experience to validate the discrimination you're facing, or the pay inequitable pay that you're getting, or the reason why you got these trumped up charges on you, all of these different things that we already know, if you will, as a Black person in this country, and it happens. Somebody says, oh, I've been discriminated against because of my hair, and every time I turned around, my white supervisor wanted to touch it or made a comment or this or that. And a white lawyer might be like, well, what's the problem with that? And as a Black woman, I'm like, wait, they tried to touch your hair. Well, what's going right? Like, I already know what it feels like. I've already had that experience. And not only am I able to have that experience, I'm able to understand the context and apply the law in a way that is critical in order to make sure that you're able to navigate that legal system. Because it's all about the analytical and the not only the book knowledge, but being able to take that book knowledge and apply it to the law in a creative, innovative way that makes great legal counsel great. Right? It's not just knowing the law, it's being able to combine those two and say, based on your unique circumstances, this is what your legal solution is. This is how we can get to the other side of justice on your behalf. And you've got to be able to have more than just book experience. Really having the depth and understanding of the Black experience is so critical. And that is one of the greatest values that Black lawyers bring to our community. So for me, it was like, hey, we got to be intentional about making sure that Black lawyers are accessible and available to our community. And we need a one-stop shop to do it. And so then I was like, let's do it. We're gonna call it the Justis Connection, right? And so just is sort of a play off of what is just, right? Just is ... Because justice is really personal and universal at the same time. Right? What is justice for you may not look like justice for me, but it's still justice. And so we all need to really have an understanding of what justice means for us and our families and our communities, right? And then my hope is that we become more familiar, more comfortable with proactively using the law to our advantage, right? Being able to navigate the legal system from a position of power and not of one of dependence on someone else to do right by us, but really having the power ourselves in the legal system.
I like how you said you created it so the community is not vulnerable. Can you kind of touch a little more on that? What did you experience, or what did you see while you were either in school or in the business that made you want to focus on that?
That's a great question, right? I mean, part of the reason why I went to law school, besides the fact that growing up, everybody was like, you argue a lot, so you'd be a good lawyer, or you talk a lot, you'd be a good lawyer. You're getting in trouble because you telling somebody about somebody and sticking up for somebody, you'd be a good lawyer, right? So besides all of those things that, sometimes we take for granted when we see those things in young people, right? And oftentimes they're interpreted in a negative light. Right. Or you're talking too much, or you're fighting back too much, or you're talking on behalf of such. And we sometimes cast that as a negative light when it's really a skill, right? Really a gift that this child is bringing. And I was lucky enough to grow up in a house that probably had a little bit of balance. So I still got in trouble for it, right? And be like, sit down, stop talking, whatever. But there was a part that was nurtured, right? That said, hey, you'd be good at this perhaps. And I really began to lean into that. And then for me, it's, I remember watching the Million Man March on TV, right? At the time we were living in Georgia. And I remember I had a notepad with my pen and paper, and I was taking notes. I just was that type of child that was like, I wanted to learn the law. I wanted to know what was holding us back as a people, and then being able to figure out how, if you knew the laws, then maybe you could sort of unlock that door, right? Use the law as the key to unlock the door of justice for Black people. And so I was always really in tune with that, even from that age. I really remember, and I wish I could find my notes. I went to my parents' house and I was like, I know this old notepad is someplace around here. But even so, another more recent example, Latoya, is when I was in Baltimore City and I was representing non-custodial parents. So basically the parent who owed the child support, not the person who was due the child support. And for me, it was a lesson in how something like child support was a cog in the wheel of poverty, right? And oftentimes the other parent is required to pay up in a way that strains the family, right? Because if you're not paying up, now we all got problems, right? And so everybody's against each other in that regard, and the best interest of the child wasn't necessarily able to dominate, because there are all these other things, real things that adults got to deal with. And so often, it's other people writing the laws that affect us. Right? And so I began working on writing new laws into place in Maryland. And while I was doing child support, I wrote 2 laws that changed how child support was forgiven in this state. So one is, if you pay your back child support for a year, half of your rest of your arrears are forgiven. And if you pay it for 2 years straight, then all of your arrears are forgiven, right? And that means a lot for people who, I had a client who owed $175,000. And he's a line item cook at IHOP. He ain't never paying $175,000 off, ever, right? And so how the laws can be used as these anchors that drown us, right? They're just a big ball and chain on our leg. And it was through that process that I learned, oh, I want to be on the other side making the laws, right? Like I want to be on that side that's influencing how our laws are made. I'm giving a really long-winded explanation, a really long answer. But I guess to round it out, like there's just been a lot of things, right, that have sort of led me to this point, from being able to examine the law behind the scenes and recognize the importance of us being able to be active in that part, to write the laws that affect us, and then also having an advocate who can really stand up for us. So oftentimes I was representing people and they'd be like, nobody ever listened to us. Nobody ever listened to my story before. Nobody was ever willing to actually believe X, Y, and Z. And it shouldn't be a privilege to have somebody listen to your story, or to be able to say, I'm going to take a look at this and let's figure this out together. That shouldn't be something that you have to have money for, or that you have to have high connections for, or that you got to know the right people, right? And so oftentimes we're so used to just taking life on the chin, just, ooh, got hit, keep it moving. Sorry that happened. I don't know, but you got to just keep it going. And oftentimes there's a legal solution for that, right? So time and time again, I was like, where are we at? And this is when the we is as Black lawyers, where are we? Because our people are looking for us and they need us. And so I believed, right, that if I was able to bring them together in a way that said, hey, you keep doing what you're doing and let me help sort of bring you to the masses in a really unified way, in a way where folks can find you, that we can close some of that justice gap, right? That we can close some of that access to justice.
So as we talk about this particular demographic that we work with, is like people who have experienced police violence. And a lot of times justice is not there, accountability is not there. What makes you want to partner with us? I think I heard the answer, but I'd like to see what you think. To be in this movement, because it's a particular demographic that is part of everything you named and more.
Yeah. No, anybody who hears either of your stories and is not moved, we got to check their pulse, first of all, right? Like this is not only being a Black woman and seeing myself in you, being a mother and seeing myself in you, being a human and seeing myself in you. And oftentimes, even as your opening video shared, oftentimes there's the hype, if you will, around the news, and everybody is horrified, and there's lots of talk about it, and there's forums and panels, and even just listening to your opening, I was like, wow, I'm honored to be on the 70th podcast that you all are, because that's huge to say we're going to keep showing up.
That's right. Sure.
right? We're going to keep showing up. We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep speaking. We're going to keep using our voice. And so for me, one, I honor that. I honor both of you as just amazing woman warriors who are filled with love and perseverance and wanting to show up too and stand in the gap, be one of those people who just stand in the gap and bring my own love and my own support and passion to support you.
Hey, wonderful, wonderful. So we're looking forward to all the wonderful things we will do together as a team. New addition to our team. We're going to change gears a little bit. We were talking off mic about, the reason it's important to pursue some of these cases. People develop this sense of helplessness and hopelessness, and they don't feel like, or they feel like, as Latoya was talking about that, if you do something civil, you're just looking for some blood money. But what's the importance of getting these cases at least in front of a judge and getting the accountability, even if you don't get all of the things that you're looking for?
Hold on, Kisha, before you answer that, I want to kind of throw a little sub on that, okay?
Okay.
Not just getting the case on the board in front of the judge. What's the importance of picking a quality lawyer to get the case in front of a judge? Speak about the importance of that, because a lot of times this will happen, right? And people will tell us off top, oh, go find Ben Crump, try to talk to Lee Merritt's, try to talk to these big wig lawyers, right? But not knowing that, just, you answer the question for me, but I want to kind of throw that on the back end of it. What is the importance of finding a quality lawyer? Almost like, would you rather have Medicaid or have some Kaiser insurance?
So I feel like your question should be answered first, but Roxanne, can I answer her question first, since it's about the type of lawyer, I guess, and then we can talk about the importance of having a lawyer. Is that the question?
Oh, I'm following the case. The importance of actually.
Oh, having a case. Okay, I gotta write that down because y'all, I'd be just that fast. So I think that, well, one, in hiring a lawyer, there's an aspect of it that's very subjective, in the sense that who's right for me may not be right for you. It's very personal, right? I recommend that when you hire a lawyer, especially in these cases, these types of situations, you want someone who you feel comfortable with, first and foremost, because this is one of the most vulnerable, difficult times in your life that you have to talk about, analyze, meet about, follow up, and you got to feel comfortable with the person that you're doing that with. I think sometimes we feel lucky to get a lawyer, right? Even for a car accident, we feel lucky. Oh, somebody's taking my case and I got a lawyer, right? And to your point, you don't necessarily just want any old body, because I've had people who maybe not in these situations where they've paid for an attorney and they didn't feel respected by the attorney, and they paid money and now they've run out of money, got more problems, less time, and less money. Because they went into a relationship with someone who they felt like they were lucky to have, but they didn't trust, they didn't have confidence, they didn't have comfortability with them. And in the end, it proved to be just that, right? Their instinct was right, that this person wasn't there for the right reasons. And so depending on the type of case you have, and quite frankly, the type of person you are, who you choose has to be somebody that you feel comfortable with, intimately comfortable with, and willing to be vulnerable. Because you're going to have to tell some stuff, right, that you might not have told other people. That is critical for that lawyer to be able to best understand what they would consider the totality of the circumstances to make the best legal assessment, right? And that takes more than one conversation sometimes. Right? And that takes more than 15 minutes most times. And so you need to be able to have that comfort level. And the first person you talk to might not be the right person. They might not think your case is something that they can help you with. And that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that your case is not worthy of moving forward or that it isn't something that could be pursued. It just means that that person may not be the best person to represent you. And so I understand that sometimes that journey of finding who is the right lawyer can be fairly challenging, because you don't necessarily know the law to be able to decipher one way or the other. But I know both of you are committed to not only that you yourself have done a lot of reading and a lot of following up and a lot of investigating and being able to be a resource for others who are coming to you in these circumstances, and they themselves need the help navigating how to connect with the right people to assist them. And in doing that process, the thing that I have to stress the most, and I stress across the board, is truly really feeling comfortable with that person. You know, sometimes I'm on the phone with folks and they'll say, "Oh, can you just be my lawyer?" And I'd be like, I don't take cases anymore. I'm just not a practicing lawyer. I'm focusing primarily on making those connections, building Justis Connection, and doing some other endeavors that I think can help advance justice overall. But partly it's because we've connected on the phone. There's a comfort level, and you can get that with other attorneys as well. It just may take some time, right? And you want somebody who's going to listen to you, someone who believes you, and someone who can also ask you hard questions and that you respect enough to be able to answer those hard questions. Because, you know, the people that you're supporting and the people who are committed to continuing to fight for justice for these families, this is the long haul, right? And oftentimes you need the attorney has to know that too. So that's why every attorney might not say I'm in it, because they know this is a commitment.
Yeah.
This isn't, I think sometimes on TV, it's summed up as if it's easy. You just show the tape and now everybody's cutting a check, and that's not necessarily the case. There are some cases, and this gets to your point around like the importance of filing a case, or the comments people might make around, oh, you're just trying to get blood money. There are many different ways that the law is designed to make people whole when something has happened, right? Many different ways. And most of those are statutory, meaning, right, that they are in statute. If this happens, then this happens. If this happens, then this happens, or this is available and that is available. Just like on the flip side, if you break this law, then you could get jail time, you could get a fine, you can get this. And on the reverse, right, having that restitution also baked into the law. So it's not, oh, I'm going to take advantage and get blood money, which is one of the most awful things someone could say. Right. It is about a part of trying to make amends. And, you two both know better than most that money can only do but so much. Yes. But it is a component to help aid in making an amend. And it shouldn't be something that is shied away from if it's on the table, because that is very real. The money that both of you have lost, have spent, have taken 2 nickels and rubbed them bad boys together at times, I'm sure, to continue not only the work, but when your own situation was happening, and all of these things rise up. So the money and the restitution and this idea that people shouldn't receive financial compensation, if you will, restitution for that type of loss is, I was looking for the right word, because of the first word I was thinking of is probably not the right word for the podcast, but what you say?
You can say it, it's totally okay.
Multilingual here.
It's short-sighted at best. At best, because these families deserve that and much more. And sometimes you have to hit people in their pocket to let them know that this is not a game and this is for real. We pay for all types of things that happen wrong in this country, in the society, that are laid out. Hey, if this happens, you are made whole this way in part. And just as much, families who are impacted by police violence and police killings should be financially compensated. So that should totally not be shied upon or looked down upon as if this family is doing something that is nefarious, if they're doing something that's wrong or trying to get over, because that is not the case. They do that and more as a part of their justice package, if you will. And so these types of cases are very challenging, very, very challenging. And I know we've talked about having other attorneys maybe come on and we get a little bit deeper as we continue these dialogues, but there are, and I'm sure folks have heard even in the presidential debates, sometimes it gets on topic where they talk about qualified immunity and the rights of police and the rights of being able to say, oh, it was a part of my job. So if it's a part of my job, then I am not liable, right? Or the city or the jurisdiction, the county is not liable. And so there are so many nuances that occur when taking these types of cases to court, or taking these cases up in a manner that is more on the negotiation side, if you will. So you file, but you're also working directly with the law departments or with the council who's representing the police union or the city or the county or the state. But I think all of those avenues are worth pursuing. And quite frankly, the work that the two of you have embarked on is so critical, because just as you need to challenge these occurrences in court, that you need to hold these municipalities accountable directly, because I'll tell you, these cities budget for it. I think that was one of the things that blew my mind, when I was working for the city and really realized this was in the budget.
That's crazy.
It is.
That's crazy.
It's not like it's coming out of nowhere and it's like, oh, you're hurting our city and we got to pay you, because already in the budget. They already know the police are going to do things that the city is going to have to financially compensate for in order to provide restitution to make things whole. That's how deeply ingrained this police violence is in our society. It's already expected, and the money part is worked into the budget because they know it's coming. They know they're going to have to pay out because every year there are these occurrences. And so we have to think about, like, what does that say about our society, right? Our society, our government, our police, our communities, all of these things. And so it's why, when you ask, like, why am I excited to work with you all? I mean, there's no cameras. I mean, you deserve cameras, but you're doing this in spite of not having cameras, without the cameras, right? To continue that work, to continue raising your voice. And those are the things that continue to move the needle, right? People who are doing movement work when no one's looking, but continue to grind, to push, to fight, to advocate, to change. That's how we move this thing. That's how we create a safer and healthier Black community and Black family and Black people. And to me, that's the end game, or at least the journey, right? Is to really, how do we survive? How do we thrive? And the work that you're doing is so critical to that.
Yeah, and that's like, to your point, that these municipalities they budget for having police who are violent to the point of taking other human beings' lives. They're budgeting with our tax dollars, though. Right, which is when you think about it like that, I'm going to use some of the tax dollars that are collected by our citizens because I know that there's a 30% chance that we're going to have to pay this civil suit, right? Yeah. But can you talk a little bit more about, the idea of having statutes in the law that show that, for example, this particular law needs to be changed because we see where, qualified immunity is not a law, but it's often cited, for example, as a reason that a police officer or a law enforcement agency is not responsible for what they've done. But if we keep having case laws that say, look, if we keep doing this, this is what is going to happen, and we want this particular law changed, because we're citing cases by bringing these cases forward.
Yeah, I think it's a multi-pronged approach, right? I think it's changing laws. I think it's in the courtroom. Each come from a different angle, if you will, attacking the problem. And the thing about changing the laws that actually is going to be probably a somewhat easier route than case law or going to court is, ever since, I don't even know what number he was, but when Trump was president, he appointed a lot of judges, including, as we know, stacking the Supreme Court. And so that changes how you can change, the law through case law, if you will, right? Because they will decide what they hear, decide what they don't hear. They can decide when they do hear something, picking the right case to be able to implement sort of the right type of decision that then shifts and now, sort of creates this new precedent, and meaning, sort of this new sort of the standard, right? Like this is how it's going to be moving forward. So the courts have been somewhat compromised or are more complicated because, nobody even pays attention even locally, right? When a judge gets appointed, whether it's in Anne Arundel or Baltimore City or Prince George's and so forth, but those judges matter.
Yes, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Who is appointed, who then runs and is elected. In the state of Maryland, it's a hybrid system in that judges are appointed and then they have to, for circuit court, then they have to stand for election in the next election. And then I think it's 15 years thereafter that they're back on the ballot. And so who is our governor appointing, right? And you may think it's okay if I'm in Prince George's County, oh, I know the judges, oh, they look like me. But if something happens across the border, right, in Anne Arundel County or in St. Mary's County or in Charles or whatever have you, are those judges of the same mindset that you believe that you are protected, right? And so we had Hogan and he got to appoint a lot of judges, right? And so what's those judges' impression? And then you have Trump appointing the federal judges. So some of this is federal jurisdiction, right? And so that really makes it very complicated for attorneys who, get approached with representing a family in this type of crisis, right? Who's had this impact. Because it's one thing to say, this is what happened and so forth, but attorneys also know sort of what jurisdiction are we going to be in? Who are the judges there? Or who are the elected leaders there? And how do we build a case around this, right? And so I don't say that to be discouraging, but I do want to be honest about the landscape that we are in, right? That it is quite challenging. And so when you talk about even on the statutory side, that's, who are all the people that we're electing to represent us, right? Are you out there like, oh, I'm gonna let Hogan be a Republican who's a Republican and will likely vote Republican if he is in the Senate? Or do you want Angela Alsabrook, who is a Democrat and will likely vote Democrat? And what is the difference between having a Democrat and a Republican in the Senate who get to decide and vote on, or not vote on, but who get to confirm justices and so forth, who get to block and who get to open the gates? And so all of that literally then matters right down to this issue of who is the judge who is hearing this case, who the lawyer is then going before. Because what you also don't want is a lawyer saying, yeah, I got you, we're gonna go to the promised land. And they know good and well that everything in the chips are stacked against you, and they have not been honest.
Okay, I have a question, Lakeisha, because I mean, I hear when you're saying that, right?
Mhm.
I think when it comes to like, okay, let's say you got a mom, right? And we also care about like statute of limitations, right? Because we don't want people to get discouraged at the same time, because when you say all these things are stacked against you, to a mom like me, I'm gonna say, okay, well that's cool. I'm gonna still walk through the gates of hell, right? And I'm gonna have that little cup of water. I'm gonna be splashing while I'm still walking, right? Because I'm gonna still walk through that. So I think we we're trying to get to the point of how do you find the lawyers who are willing to say, okay, hey, granted, all these things are stacked up against me, but I'm going to take this case. Because how do we find those lawyers? How do we find the ones who they know it's going to be a hard battle or not? But I got this mom who might only have about 6 months before the statute of limitations runs out to file a civil lawsuit. How do we find the attorneys who have the strength and the power to say, okay, hey, I'm going to stand up and do the right thing?
Yeah. How are we going to do that, Latoya and Roxanne? That is something, right? I'm going to throw it right back at us, because that's something that we talked about, right? Is you know, in some of our earlier conversations brought to me and said, look, our mamas are having trouble finding attorneys who are willing to take them under their wing and help them with their case and take them all, right? And so I think that's part of our work, right? Is to say, one, we talked about identifying what are some of the pain points that mothers and fathers who have this impact are going through, right? Is it a list of attorneys? Is it money to get to the attorney's office? Is it having to hire investigators? Is it understanding the law? Is it being able to understand their own timeline of the statute of limitations and making sure you have this, and if you file a complaint, and you know, checking in with the Victims' Rights Center or whatever it is? And so I think that is part of the work, right? Is being able to really identify the full landscape, and then being able to see who are the lawyers that do this work. And that's not a lot, right?
Right.
It's not a lot, but they're out there. And so I look, even though my business in Justis Connection, right, is the first Black attorney referral, bringing Black attorneys, right, together so that people can have this one-stop shop. I'll tell you, in certain jurisdictions, it's hard for me to find a Black lawyer, right? In the sense that I'm looking like, oh, you're looking for somebody here in this county, or somebody who will go to this county. For example, Virginia. Virginia is actually kind of big, right? So you've got folks who are like, oh, no, I don't travel there, but you might have a good Black population, a good sized Black population in Southwest Virginia, can't find a Black attorney, right? So there's so much that really goes into this access to justice for our people, right? It is a numbers game. Do we have the numbers? Do we have the expertise, the subject matter expertise? Are we grooming and nurturing a crop of Black lawyers to be able to do this type of work?
That's right.
Have there been lawyers who did it and don't do it anymore? Why is that the case? Are there lawyers who want to do it but haven't taken the step? Why not? Right? Just in June, I co-hosted a training for lawyers on how to handle police misconduct cases. So everything from when someone is killed to harassment to even correctional officers, because correctional officers also, you know, kill people in prison or do things that are against the law. And so we held this 2-day training. It was in Baltimore. And lawyers flew out from Texas. They were there from Texas, from California, from Virginia, Maryland, DC, New York. And one, I was surprised that there were so many lawyers who had traveled, who had like spoken to their boss or the managing partner of their firm and was like, oh, there's this training. I want to go to that in Baltimore. One that shows me that there aren't a lot of these. Right. If you fly from Houston for a 2-day conference on police misconduct training, I don't remember, one, I didn't advertise in Houston. I did advertise with the National Bar Association, which is the National Black Lawyer Association, and other groups. But I was surprised by how folks came far and wide. Right? I was surprised by the diversity, quite frankly, that was in the room of lawyers. There were a lot of lawyers who don't do this work, but they are sort of adjacent, if you will, meaning like they're not taking these cases, but there were some folks who were from the public defender's office, right? So they have intel on some of the police that they often see, and being able to track information around, hey, this is the police officer that we know does this, and we got a police officer here that we've got these records on, because that's data, right? And when you're doing these types of cases, all that type of information becomes critical in building your case. Yeah. So really this ecosystem of lawyers that in this 2-day training, I sort of became exposed to say also, how do we continue to cultivate this? Right. So to your point, when folks are like, where are they at, right? The lawyers in the room didn't know each other. So they don't know where they at either. And so this work is in real time. Mm-hmm. It's really in real time, like, how do we build that which we need? Because we already know ain't nobody building it for us. Right? Yeah.
That part, right? We're the ones that we've been waiting for. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You know, we've been chatting it up for a few minutes here, Kisha. We could talk to you all day because we get into these conversations. But how do people get in touch with you? If they
no, thank you. I was about to move my little bun to the side and say that. If the website, justisconnection.com.
Can you give the website for us, Mel? So you can take a look so people can.
Yeah, that would be great. And so, there it is, Justis Connection. I love that Black woman. I try to use her everywhere on the website. But it's a pretty straightforward. That's the word. Pretty straightforward in that justisconnection.com. Two things that I want to draw people's attention to. One, to connect with a lawyer. If you're ready to hire a lawyer, the button is everywhere on the page. And you can fill out a short form, and then we look to connect you with lawyers. I will give two caveats. We're in DC, Maryland, Virginia, and Georgia. We also have attorneys who practice in Alabama, Illinois, Florida, and New York. But we're looking to expand to several more states next year. And one of the questions does ask, do you have a budget? So on certain types of cases, like if you're coming and saying that the police committed violence, killed my child, my relative, and so forth, and those cases are often done on contingency, right? And that basically means that the lawyer gets paid from a settlement, right? They get paid from what is retrieved from the case. Other types of cases require you to pay hourly, or perhaps a retainer, or perhaps a package deal, right? Maybe you pay a certain amount every quarter or every month in order to reach that retainer. So it really varies. And one of the things that everybody who's in the Justis Connection has their own practice. So I don't send them pro bono cases, meaning it's a case that requires you to pay, but they waive their fee. So the lawyers waive their fee all the time in so many different ways. So when I send them cases, I send them folks who can afford an attorney. So that's one caveat. The second thing that is really important, so two things. One, you can go to connect with a lawyer. Two, you can also subscribe for our newsletter. So we send a really powerful newsletter once a month. And I'm surprised the little pop-up hasn't happened. Maybe it happened earlier because it happens once, I think, a week if you come back to the site. But if you go to home and you scroll down, you'll see where you can subscribe for our newsletter. And I highly encourage people to subscribe. Oh, there goes one. So that's a free sort of 4 questions before hiring an attorney that you can look at. If you fill that out, that basically subscribes you to our newsletter as well. We send it once a month. You can follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and we send legal insight and tips. We highlight beautiful Black attorneys so that you can see, because I'll tell you, seeing is believing. Sometimes you just need to see a Black man, a Black woman's face smiling on the other side, like, I got you, right? Whether it's you need a will for your auntie or whether you're trying to do your business. Because also the women, the mothers, the family members that you work with, they still have a life.
That's right.
That they got to navigate, right? And oftentimes it's the little things that begin to erode, how you're able to get on. And so, being able to have a legal resource, I think is important. And, we're here to offer support any way that we can. And if we can't connect you with a lawyer, we're also able to connect you with some other free legal resources and things that can help you along the way.
Right. So you guys keep in mind, she just said on the website, it's not necessary to it's connection, right? Almost like a hub. So if you're looking for that, make sure you go to the Justis Connection. We made an announcement, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, about us working with the Justis Connection. So Mel, if you could drum roll, if you want to go ahead and roll that video out, Mel, real fast, please. There it goes.
All right.
All right. So Roxanne, what was the total again? I forgot. What did we say so far?
We have a small fundraiser where our goal is to get $1,000. So far, we have raised $570. Yay!
That's not like a week ago, right?
That's from a week ago, right?
Yeah.
So what we're asking, we got what, $430 more to get. Come on, y'all. We can do that.
I'm sorry, as Kisha just said, right? On the website, she showed you all that some attorneys are paid for and some are not paid for, right? So our goal is this. If a family has approached us and say, hey, we need funds and whatnot to find an attorney, we have someone here who can connect them with an attorney. Oftentimes money is needed, right? So therefore we have money, hopefully too, we can give to the Justis Connection and then for finding an attorney. The whole point is making it go full circle within the community. So we're not trying to like extra raise the funds, get our light bills paid. That's not it. We're more so raising these funds out here for our community legal defense fund. The whole point is to then connect the community with lawyers, the Justis Connection, and other teams as well to move forward with these cases, you guys. Keep in mind, so our qualified immunity, things of that nature, we can't fight those things. It's not on the books. And oftentimes, again, like I said, again, it comes with money. So we're asking for a lot of us pay the rent, we understand. But again, our goal is to raise $1,000. We're over halfway to our goal. If you can find it in your hearts, please donate. Help us reach our goal. We'd greatly appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Yes, yes. We want to thank Kisha Brown for being our guest and now our partner. We're so excited about this. We're excited about doing this work. We're most excited about getting the accountability that people deserve when things like this happen, because it just multiplies the grieving, the sorrow, when it feels like there's nobody or no way to get any kind of accountability. So we're excited to be doing this work and we're excited to be partnering with you. All right.
Me too. I'm excited to be able to support, as you need legal resources. And I know we talked about maybe doing some workshops and things of that nature. So this is our first, official event together, podcast, but not our last.
And Kisha, I thank you for your readiness. A lot of people are lawyers, right? They feel like they're in a space where they don't have to give their time to the community because they're so busy, right? So I just thank you for your readiness to be open, to put things aside in order to take time to do things we need you to do. Even with another guest we have on here recently, I reached out to you for a reference of a lawyer, and you were right on it. So, I just thank you for that, even the communication we had, just, again, for the readiness of to be able to move forward. We can find more lawyers like you, more lawyers like Mrs. Askew, people like we can just clone and put in the community. We'll be okay, so we got to find those people to keep moving forward.
We're on it.
That's right.
Thank you for that, Latoya. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Of course.
We're gonna make this. We're gonna make things happen because we're moving forward in this movement. Right. And so, if you want to be a part of what we're doing, we're inviting you. Come into our community, be a part of it, and find out how you can get involved. This has been Life After the Impact. See you later.
Good night.
My son was killed by DC Metropolitan Police. He actually died in custody. I was called in the middle of the night. Well, actually 3 o'clock in the morning. I will never forget. And so grieving, and I'm trying to find a lawyer, and they're telling me I got a certain amount of time before this, I'm no longer able to file any kind of wrongful death suit. And because of this thing called qualified immunity, I have very little recourse. I talked to 9 lawyers who all told me, no, they cannot take my case. No, I don't have a case. Imagine grieving and then not being able to pursue any kind of accountability for the death of your child. This month, we would be celebrating his 40th birthday. Oh. And on October the 1st, will be 5 years that my son has been gone, away from his family, away from his only daughter, away from us, the people who loved and care about him. So that's what makes me very passionate about this. It makes me very passionate about wanting to see not just justice for my family. If Latoya wins, then I win. If you in the listening audience wins, then we all win. Everybody can do something that you don't have to sit home and feel helpless and hopeless.
We gotta stop allowing people to talk us out of our power. That's the main thing.
Can't change overnight, but we gotta start somewhere. Might as well go ahead, start here. We didn't have